So happy you're here. I am Dr. Amanda Noel, and these are her top 5 sexual fantasies. In case you don't know, your sexual fantasies are normal. No, that's not what this video is about. I'm not going to talk about this in the context of this is the secret that you should know about your sister next door or your lover, or are you in the normal range? I'm not talking about fantasies so that you can have a better sex life from some kind of hacking into the consciousness of women. I'm here actually to promote healing of female sexuality. And so what I would like to share is my background as a women's studies, sexuality studies, and anthropology major from Duke University. Years back, I went to this university, had the #1 rate in sexual assault in the entire country, and that was information shared by a cultural anthropology professor. And it was also very obvious because there were a lot of drunken frat boys, and the culture was very toxic. And it was also a party school, which was fun, but there was this dark, shadowy side. So it also had a top rate of eating disorders. And I have found that there's this dark side of sex that we need to heal, we need to talk about, we need to discuss. And I'm so grateful that this awesome man, who I have not gotten to know well. By the way, I'm Dr. Amanda Noel. I am the founder of a Divine Feminine Mystery School. Aphrodite is the goddess of love, and all things Aphrodite are what I support. So I'm going to talk today in a more kind of a mainstream way for those of you who follow my work as a mystic, a healer, a priestess. Thank you for being here. And I'm going to go with a little bit of my intuition blended with a lot of analysis. So I'm so excited. So Jordan Peterson, basically Canadian psychologist, seems like he has a really big heart, was interviewed by Joe Rogan, and he analyzed the top 5 female fantasies. And he says that the Google guys figured out 15 years ago, when they analyzed 15 billion sex fantasies, searches by men and women, that there were these sort of 5 themes. And the overall difference with men and women are men go for the visual stuff, probably mostly videos these days, maybe some photos, but women are going to go much more into the story. They're not looking at things getting off. They need to be pulled in. And there's something really interesting. The story is the same, or at least similar. And these are the 5 hottest fantasies for women. There are these categories of a man, and the first one is vampire, werewolf, pirate, surgeon, and billionaire. So we've got all of these archetypes, and I'm going to dive into them of why they are hot to women, why they are not hot to fantasize about unless you're very intentional, and I'll talk about that as well, and how you can heal from the toxic archetypes so that your fantasy life in the mind doesn't bleed into that dark space into your relationships in an unhealthy way, where you're vampirically giving your energy away to a werewolf or someone who's pirating your wisdom and energy and taking it. And the old archetype of the president, the stereotype of behind every strong man is a strong woman, and you have this powerful president, but really like the wife is doing everything, advising him, and he's just kind of the puppet. And where you're not getting controlled by the negative aspects of these things. The billionaire, we all kind of have in our heads, I think the billionaire would be a powerful, wealthy guy, but we all know that the gold diggers often will deal with some negative side effects. So we're going to go more into these archetypes. And I'm going to also, at the end of this video, towards the end, I'm going to share my own experience with my sexual fantasies, with my inner process, and with overcoming and healing from some of these. I'm going to give you some really solid tips, ladies, if you want to call in a healthier relationship, a empowered relationship, and a sexuality that's not based on the architecture given to you by Disney, by elites that maybe have created, scripted how your sexuality should run and how your subconscious mind should run. Because if we hear, we're going to dive in and look a little bit deeper, but basically I'm going to say that we've been given these messages from when we were little. And we've been inculcated with the culture as little girls. We grow up, but from day one, we are taught to get turned on, to look up to Big Daddy, who is the vampire, the werewolf, the pirate, the surgeon, the billionaire. And that sets us up in life for failure, for disappointment, for heartbreak. And that's the work that I do, is I help women undo that pain and heartbreak. And I have dealt with a lot of these types of energy vampires, or wealthy men that women are going after, giving all their power away, and they're losing all of their life force energy, and it takes them years to recover, and they waste their life, and they get a divorce, or they go through unpleasant experiences that are avoidable because of these fantasies, and because this culture needs an upgrade. No more culture that's toxic and sick. Yeah, we don't need this whole satanic type of vibe thing anymore in women's wombs. It's time to heal. So Jordan Peterson, he does say that this archetype of the guy, whether he's in one of the 5 categories, he's kind of the same, and he's an aggressive guy, but he's capable of being tamed into an intimate relationship. And that's the standard female pornographic fantasy, and it's pretty much the standard fantasy romance. And so that's really interesting, because there's the porn, which you would think is like, for men anyways, it's just the pictures, the visuals. But for women, we have this deep connection to story. We have to be brought in, which is why, the typical one night stand, one of my articles actually, I didn't even get to have more than one article. I got kicked off of the Duke Chronicle because I wrote my first article back in 1999 about how the hookup scene, this drunken frat culture, was not fulfilling to women sexually, that we were not able to have orgasms because drunken frat boys that have this alpha male testosterone, it initially might intrigue us and turn us on, but we need to feel safe. We need to be touched. We need to have foreplay, for heaven's sake. And so the women that I was talking to, they would have hot drunken sex, but it wasn't really that hot. They weren't pleased. They didn't know their bodies. They didn't know what they were doing in those young 18 to 21 kind of range. And so interestingly enough, the editor of the newspaper came to me and was like, I really can't run this article. There's no premise. There's no, I just don't understand it. And I was like, oh my God, this guy is like the nerdiest guy who has not gotten laid. He totally is going on with the male culture, the alpha male culture. And because even though I had this like powerful feminist voice in me, I grew up in Berkeley, I also had, from my Midwestern parents, people pleasing. And so I said I would take the article back, and I felt so not good enough, not worthy, because that was something I really dealt with. And it took me years before I even spoke up. It took me until I was 30 to make my first mark and impression. And here I am today. I think this is my 556th video on this channel, and I had a previous channel, and I'm still speaking up. I feel like the more I speak, sometimes the less I'm heard, because there's so much noise out there. But my message is really this, is that women's pleasure is important. It's one of the most important things. I would say it is the signal. And I'm not talking about just physical pleasure. It's actually her orgasm traveling through all the aspects of herself. Her root chakra, meaning she's financially grounded, she's confident. But her having all the 7 chakras, and I go more into this in other videos, and I don't want to digress too much. But the happy and fulfilled orgasmic woman will be a sign that our society has made it. And I would probably assert that when a large number, I don't know what the tipping point is, but women become orgasmic as they're also in leadership positions in the world, our world will heal. The plastics will come out of the ocean. We'll find alternative technologies, and we'll infuse this orgasmic Shakti, the sexual energy, into the new systems, the ley lines. And we need our men on board. So thank you if you're a man, whatever body you're in, thank you for listening, because this is a particular energetic that I come from, and I wanted to share that background of me having this passion to share back in 1999, feeling not good enough, but here I am sharing it. And even as I say it, this area where I've been tight in my head because of childhood trauma. When I was little, I was screamed at school by a teacher. He was actually the beast in the archetypal system. But even just being here with you, sharing on video, it's healing for me because I am opening the voice of the divine feminine, this daughter archetype that is the subtle, vulnerable, quiet, scared. I'm allowing that to come out and speaking on things that I think are really important and that I have not felt as a woman and as someone who has a damaged inner girl that I'm working on healing every day, that's stepping into her wholeness. I have felt like society has not wanted to listen. So if you're here with open eyes and ears, I'm so excited because it's a sign that more and more of us are listening and are taking the womb wisdom in all women seriously. And hopefully we can heal and wake up together. So here are the top 5 fantasies in women, according to Google, in these 15 million analyzed cases of women's sexual fantasies. So the first one is vampires, which I personally think vampires are disgusting and really scary, and I have an aversion to blood, and I don't have any fantasies like that. But I would guess that there's energy vampire type of theme for almost all women, where we fantasize about scenarios. Again, we're really into story, where we fantasize about scenarios where there's this bad boy that wants to like rip our clothes off and ravish us, but it's like coming from it's not good for me, it's good for him. And I think, what was that vampire show that I was so addicted to blood? I can't remember the name of it. I don't want to think about it because, but there's something about this dark satanic stuff that is both repulsive, disgusting, and it resonates with us. It's about a resonance. And I think we all have to talk about the shadow side, the darkness, when we look at a slide like this with vampire energy. So I think that we're all made of dark and light. We have the most ascended goddess of love, Venusian energy, or god of love energy, and we have the darkest satanic hatred and control, domination. We have feminine, we have masculine, we have dark, we have light, we have control, we have full surrender. So in the vampire dynamic, we're really looking at polarity. We're looking at the feminine who likes to give her energy to this colonial type of conquistadores, like he's coming to colonize, to take, to force. And what we need to do with this energy is we need to own it and say, I have a shadow side. It's sexy. But instead of being unconscious about it, giving it away, we can own it and say, this is my fantasy. This is just a fantasy. And really how I teach it with the twin flame mirror. Okay, this is not kid appropriate. I have my sweetie pie. I'm making a video about adult stuff. My husband didn't quite catch it on time, but all right. So, yeah, let's all honor the divine daughter in her inner child. So all of us, even my kid yesterday was like, she's in her terrible 3s. It keeps going after the 2s. She's like, testing boundaries, like bonking us and seeing if, I bonked you, mommy. It's like, okay, you're going to get a timeout for it. We have this reptilian brain that's dark, that wants to hurt others, that wants to be bad, that wants to be naughty, that wants to go to the dark side. And so if we can take responsibility for it, own it, say it's okay, it doesn't mean that I'm going to pledge an allegiance to some satanic order and want to be mind controlled in all my lifetimes, and I can actually let go of any past lives, present, future lives where I've taken a vow because I'm so ashamed of my dark side that I have to give it up to some, whatever the most recent artificial intelligence god or dark energy force is available for us, and like we submit to it. Instead of going subconscious, we become super conscious of our subconscious mind. So I'm all about exploring fantasies, and one of the best ways to explore a fantasy is to own it, that it's okay, that it's okay. It is okay to have fantasy. and that it's not reality. And to really understand if there's an energy vampire scene in your mind, you can look at that, like why am I attracted to that? You can break it down, you can analyze it, you can heal it by becoming more aware of it. It's when we're not aware of it and we're fantasizing about the same things and we're having these physical, energetic orgasms and we're re-imprinting whoever it is that's writing all this porn or that's creating all these stories in our early childhood Disney years. So we need to get out of the fantasy by really going into it, by taking care of ourselves in the shame, having healers, guides, conversations, having our partner be that healer or guide if you have a partner or partners. Talking to them about the shame that you have, talking to them, analyzing it. You know, I want my hair to be, I want you to grab my hair. I want you to take me. I want you to ravish me. And I also know that part of this is not healthy. I had this trauma as a child, or I have this part of myself that I'm stepping into who I fully am, and this past part of me that feels insecure. Like, just have the conversations, do the psychoanalysis. I love doing energetic readings on people's stories. People tell me their love life stories. Sometimes they tell me their fantasy stories too. I work with high-end clients from around the world, and high-end, middle and low-end women's fantasies do seem to be the same. What they want. They want a little bit of the bad guy or gal, and they also want like the highest level intimacy, love, connection, pleasure, but things are really confused. So we've got the vampire. Let's move on to the werewolf. So the werewolf, I think we would think a lot about, anyways for me, Michael J. Fox's Teen Wolf. We would think about Baphomet, the beast, who has this energy, maybe even that's present in Beauty and the Beast. And we think of dog energy, beast energy, you know, this animalistic energy. So the vampire I think of as more as the reptile, the reptilian brain, who's just like, I just want to suck your blood. I just want to take your energy. The werewolf is a little bit more mammalian. It's a mammal. It's a little bit more human, almost like between the reptile and the divine man or human. And so we have this beast energy, and I think Baphomet would be maybe an interesting symbol for it, because Baphomet is the blend. It's the inverted goddess Venus energy, the pentagram turned upside down, and she is male, female, and is this blend of this super dark reptilian energy and this more light humanoid god type of energy. So my guess, I have no ability to prove it on a Google search level or in books or research, or prove it in this kind of left brain logical way, but my guess is that there have been black magic ceremonies that have been played out to bring in this type of energy in us, and that it's naturally a part of who we are, because we are everything, and we're learning how to embrace the configuration of every single combination in the universe. We're learning to integrate our inner child, our inner adult, our shadow, our narcissist, our empath. You know, some people identify, I'm an empath. Well, but yeah, we also have the narcissistic side, and that maybe that empath in you is giving everything away so that she can have what she wants. And so there's no judgment. We are the judge. We are the creator. We are the child. We are the adult, and we go through all the phases. Hopefully you live a long life and you get to experience being the wise old woman or man, as well as the little egg that sat in your mommy's tummy, as well as the DNA codes that go back down, the divine line, the bloodline. And we have this energy of the beast, this hungry animal that it wants something. And of course, you know, in the wild, the dog would probably just want to eat us up. But when we look at things like Teen Wolf or especially Beauty and the Beast, I think they nailed it with the beast wants to love. He's not super handsome, unless you're really into the werewolf, unless that's what you dive with. But this werewolf, he wants love. And so there's this divine heart energy. So when it comes to maybe the vampire or more of a reptilian kind of energy, we can't really make a heart connection because the vampires, they just thrive off of our dead parts. There's like not as much consciousness to it. I would say the werewolf is an interesting place to play because there is this heart energy, just like Belle in Beauty and the Beast. She converts the beast from his lonely, angry, selfish, dark side, and he is kind of violent and abusive with his voice. He doesn't hit her, but he's not like really that nice. I remember when I was little, I was like, oh, that's great that he, you know, he wins at the end. But in parts of it, I was like, dude, like he really like didn't deserve her being so sweet and nice and docile. And, you know, I think realistically in life, I've watched all the Disney movies. I got mind controlled with them. And I went and tried to convert all the werewolves out there that I fell in love with. Of course, they were better looking than the beast, but you know, that was like their personality sometimes, and sometimes they had really repulsive sides of them, not necessarily physically, although there were times where I dated guys that I would say were a little bit beastly looking, and I was doing everything to pamper and primp, and people would say, you're like a hippie Barbie, and you know, you're dating this guy, and I think it gave me this polarized werewolf, you know, I'm the Belle and he's the beast. It never worked out because I think that's where Disney had it wrong, is he cannot make the leap of maybe I'm wrong here, but, and I'm going a little bit too deep with the Disney thing, but I think if a man is trapped in that werewolf energy, he needs to be the one to be ready to free himself. It cannot be that she saves him. She cannot just bring in her magical bell power, because that's where I think women have been getting it wrong, is we've been trying to convert these dark guys. We're trying to make these fixer-uppers and change a man and make him want us. And we get all of these signs of he's kind of a jerk, or he's kind of, you know, he's playing hot and cold, or he's cheating, or he's, you know, the werewolf, whatever werewolves do in the human form, is they feed off of her energy. And maybe the sex is really good. Maybe the connection feels really hot at times, but he's not mature. He's not fully in his sovereign man energy. And so she keeps hoping that she can convince him to be different. And maybe he's got an alcoholism issue or a gambling issue, or he's not spiritually awake and she's like super, super awake. That does not work. He's got to be exercising his own demon. He's got to be stabbing himself in the heart with his own cross. I think that women are being taught that we can heal the wounded masculine in a man, and I think that's fundamentally wrong. We heal the masculine within ourselves. We heal that wounded masculine within ourselves. We're ready for that. And then we can show up for the person, for the man, and if he is ready to come with us, we do it together. But we're not leaning into his energy. We're not giving away our farm to him. We're not staying at his house, trapped in his dungeon. You know, we're doing everything we can to get out. Like, this is not cool. I'm not just going to be your prisoner. Like, if you're going to imprison me, if you're going to take care of me in this house, like, this is what I need if I'm going to be giving my energy to you. And, yeah, like, the werewolf in the Beast, the Beast never apologized for the wrongdoings that he did. You know, he never owned up to it. Like, I'm sorry I trapped you. That must have been hard. And, you know, eventually he does let her go. And then she wants to stay, I don't know, I'm a little rusty on it, but okay, let's move on to the next one. I'm very passionate about these. Okay, so the Billionaire, we're jumping to the Billionaire here. So I would say that this is probably the most popular one in our culture where, and I think a lot of these 5 archetypes are mixed together. I think a lot of women fantasize about the vampiric, beastly, dark billionaire. But I would say that I've met so many women, and a lot of them at some point in their lives, they're like, I want to meet a millionaire, or, the billionaire archetype. What is it about money that's sexy? Well, we probably all know, like, he could buy you the diamonds, you could fly around, he's so statusy, wealthy, probably he's super smart, and maybe he's really structured, so he has a great body, he's like this warrior. But like, ladies, is he eco-friendly? Is he flying his jet around and like creating really cool things for the world? Or is he just trashing the world, contributing to the pain and the plastics problem and employing a bunch of people? Like, are you actually tuning in consciously? Like, is he paying his employees well enough? Are they happy? Or is he just this flashy Wonder Man, like Superman, like Wonder Boy, that's just like, I'm so great, bow down to me. And then really there's no substance. He's just an empty freaking dollar that's getting an inflated ego, and our dollar system is getting inflated, and it's creating more and more problems, and eventually it's going to crash. Like, do we want that? So I think it's totally fine if you're having fun fantasizing. I actually have had some really powerful sessions with my husband and in pleasure with myself, where I will bring in, like, you're a billionaire, and we're manifesting with our orgasmic frequencies wealth, and it's okay to hold these frequencies. But I think what we don't want to do is imprint, okay, I'm fantasizing about a billionaire and I'm this like gold digger girl and he's giving me the wealth. And because that's I'd say the mainstream social programming. It's going to program women to be the stay-at-home trophy wife. So if you're going to fantasize about it, when you climax, you want to make sure that you are activating your wealth, and you're like, my millionaire energy, my billionaire energy is getting activated, and I'm giving back, I'm feeding the poor, I'm, all the things that you want, because you're a good person. If you're watching this, let's hope. Or like the planet is healing, the cosmos is healing, I'm waking up, I'm more conscious every day. And like your divine masculine that you're fantasizing about, whether he's like dark in the fantasy or super light, you claim and control your fantasy. And that's where I want to share. I've had incredible breakthroughs. So I'll share more about my billionaire money breakthrough as a starving entrepreneur, how I went from starving entrepreneur to having a successful 6-figure business, working the same, actually working less hard. So stay tuned for that too. The pirate. So my husband's name is Jack, and I have called him Captain Jack, and I've definitely had this fantasy, and he has this red beard, and he probably comes from a lineage. I never liked the Johnny Depp character. I don't know, he just like creeped me out, but hey, whatever floats your boat, baby. So the pirate, interesting. I haven't experienced it as much, maybe. It's not like a top 5 fantasy for me, but hey, it could be fun. I think it goes along the same lines as maybe the millionaire. It's like a wealthy man who's willing to do what it takes to climb to the top. And it blends it maybe a bit with the vampire, where he takes what's not his. He wants to take her for his booty, and he wants to have her do these things, maybe walk the plank naked, or I don't know what it is, where he captures a boat and she's one of the mermaids, or I don't know. There's so many ways to go with this. But I think we're really remembering that the story is what turns women on, and the story can be very vivid when we have these energies, and even like our connection to water, gets put in there. Water is it's living. We are 70% water. So when we're having these pirate fantasies, in the back of our mind, or at least in the scene, there's the sea, this water, that actually is an energy that can support women's womb healing and or orgasmic potential. If you make love near the water and you really tune into that water frequency, it's a tantric tool, right? So the pirate is the pirate fantasy. It's a good one. It's but are we using it to our benefit, or are we playing into just the dark fantasy part of it? Can you take the darkness and then rewrite it? So I worked with a healer. One of my teachers was Denise Lynn, who certifies people as soul coaches. And so years back, maybe 15 years ago, 10 years ago, I got certified as a soul coach. And she teaches people how to not only heal this lifetime, but also one of her specialties is past life regression. And she gave out all these incredible stories, and I have found it to be true, although my specialty is not past life regression. I work mostly online, and I work mostly on this lifetime, because for me, they're all kind of the same. However, when I do past life regressions, I always use this tool that she teaches, which is rewriting the script. Okay, if your child was stolen away from you in a past life, in this lifetime, they have some kind of learning disability, and it's coming from a past life, and you want to work on healing them, then you rewrite the past in a positive timeline if you see it as there was this horrible thing that happened in the past life. So it's the same thing with our sexual fantasies. We want to rewrite our sexual fantasies, being aware of them. Okay, I'm getting off on this dark male energy, taking over the ship. I'm his slave, mermaid, whatever. This is fun. It's getting me hot. It's juicy. I like to play with this with my husband. But are we funneling that type of story into our relationship, or are we recoding it, rewriting it, saying, you know what, these fantasies are fun, but if left unconscious, they have very dangerous consequences. And I think that's what I want to bring up here is women's 5 fantasies are dangerous if they're not handled responsibly. If we're giving fire to a child, then what's going to happen? We're going to have big fires. We're giving the matches, to a child. So we have these fantasies, and we are still kind of at that children state in our consciousness. I think we're just coming out. You're probably more advanced because you're learning, and you're online, and you're Googling things about fantasies, and you want to learn and heal. And so however you came here, you probably have a heart that's more awake, but a lot of people do not have this, and they're just getting addicted to porn. It's destroying their marriages. It's destroying their sex lives. The fertility rates are dropping by 50% in men in the last couple of decades. We're going through these weird things, and everything's a hologram. Of course, it's the pesticides, it's the hormones, it's the changes in the environment, it's the stress levels. But things are really out of balance in our world sexually, even on that fundamental level of our male seed is not working. It's only working as half as much as it was a couple decades ago. Maybe 5 decades ago. One generation from now, where are we going to be? So we need to own that we've had this dark shadow, this pirate archetype or vampire or whatever it is. And instead of just being asleep in it, bring in the Christ force energy, the light, the true light. Because we are fantasizing about the Luciferian, and that's okay, because the serpent eating its tail, we have the dark and the light. We are both. But if we're just getting off, orgasm is a blessing. It's a physical and spiritual activation, a powerful blessing, and thoughts create things. And when we're literally thinking, getting off, we're getting off, especially with women, because we're the story writers, we're the ones that need the story to get off. So we have these stories playing out in our minds, and we're physically bringing it into the physical world. We're physically orgasming. Our glands are secreting things. Physically, juices are flowing out of us. And if we are giving our life force energy and our life juices out to pirates, to vampires, to werewolves, to dark millionaires, billionaires, what are we doing for the world? What are we doing for the world? So it's time to change this, my sister, my brother. It's time to heal this and take responsibility, and to remember these divine feminine healing arts, where we trained our children how to manifest through the law of attraction and how orgasm is sacred and we're not meant to just be pumping things out with porn and unconscious and having all this body shame and plastic surgeries. That is not getting off in a sacred way. It's getting us into a plastic filled ocean. We have oceans the size, we have islands that are just plastic, like piles of junk in the ocean, old mattresses and bottles and cans of crap. We need to clean this out of our subconscious minds. Thoughts create things. Whoopie-doo. All right, my aim is not so good with these slides. All right, so we're going to the surgeon, the doctor. So who of you here went to the doctor as a child? Who of you felt like super awkward and uncomfortable as a child? Who of you had a healthy sexual education as a child and pre-adolescent? No, probably most of us are like, not really, not about sex. Maybe it was how to make babies and that required sex, but were you taught about the clitoris, about the cervix, about foreplay, about how it's okay, and about how you were made as a baby? And we have such a toxic shame culture. We have this polarized thing where we have like pedo, creepo crap, and we also have this like fake Christian, I'm totally holy culture, or whatever temple or mosque or culture you come from, where we have this like split, and maybe even like, I know in America, especially in California where I'm from, like everybody threw out religion a long time ago, but still there's the repercussion of the previous generations getting programmed. I have Catholic and Christian and Jewish parents. My dad was half. So there's all this suppression and fear. And I would probably say that there's a pastor and priest, and that's maybe part of some of the werewolf. I don't know. But so we went to the doctor every year or more often than that as kids. And it was like our only context for our naked body being exposed to the world. And I remember I didn't change in front of my friends, my mother, even my own mother, after I was about 7. There was so much sexual shame. Even though in Berkeley, California, there was the naked guy walking around the campus. There were people that would streak. There were all these people doing nude paintings and putting them up, and like, there was this kind of like advanced, open, liberal-minded culture, and still all of my friends were terrified of our bodies. We didn't look at each other's bodies. We had so much shame. And then with all the porn and all the popularity and the drinking culture, we were supposed to just be super confident hot girls boning in college and know exactly how our bodies worked and be able to please the guy and figure out healthy sexuality. It was so messed up. It was a train wreck. And that's why so many of my dear friends got raped. So many of my dear friends became anorexic or had bulimia or even attempted suicide or were severely depressed, anxious. And they did work with doctors. They had their psychiatrists come and help. So we're pretty messed up in this culture. And hopefully you've gotten out of it. Hopefully you've popped out of the matrix like me. I live here in beautiful Bali, where recently they've become very, very conservative with covering up. But they used to have women topless, holding the baskets on their heads, just letting their breasts hang out. And sexuality was much more open. You have small village and compound life. So people would just kind of like, okay, the couples are married. They do their thing. If they need to make sound, everybody's kind of just tunes it out. It's fine. So, but I'd say wherever we are, we have some issues with our sexuality, and the doctor-patient dynamic did not help having that as our one context for sex. I used to go from age 6 on until I was like a teenager. I would always wear a bathing suit underneath my clothes when I was at the doctor's office. I was so scared. I hated when they asked me to take my clothes off in that little gown. And I even remember the doctor was like so nice. She was trying to make me comfortable because I was like, I don't want to take my underwear off. She was like, oh, I like your underwear. Those are strawberry shortcake. My daughter likes that. And I was just like, oh my God, like, don't talk about my underwear. Like, I had so much fright and discomfort about sex. So we have to look at, why are children so ashamed? Are we having conversations? Are we telling them about their bodies, talking to them about how beautiful their bodies are? I actually have conversations with my daughter, and I let her see my body. I'm like, I'm naked, I'm spread eagle, if I'm doing yoga naked. She's like, she's seen a woman's body before, inside, not inside, but like on the outside. She's seen her father's body. We are basically at home at our swimming pool almost every week, one day a week on the weekend, just like fully naked when we don't have childcare support coming. We just, this is our space, and it's very safe. And it's sad. It's sad for us if we have people over, like, we don't always feel safe with them because they don't feel safe. They don't come from nudist families. And one of the most healing things for my husband and I is we met, and then our second date we went to Burning Man, and a lot of people were naked. I got naked. My husband got naked just for the shower. He was very, very uncomfortable because he came from a Christian home, and the shower at our camp was like a stage in front of the kitchen, so people were like eating breakfast and like watching his showers. But it helped us. That was literally our second date. I felt like this might be my soulmate. I need to just go and explore. And I had such a deep opening with my husband, because what would have been sexual shame became innocence. We're naked in the kitchen, we're laughing, people are eating breakfast, who cares? So maybe taking our clothes off more often as children. I know in Europe they have, like in Germany, they'll change at the beach in front of people. It's not a big deal. The Puritan stuff, it's not pure. It is creating a polarity. It's creating a sickness. And the rates of pedophilia, 1 in 4, like, kids are abused, like, too cray. Let's change this. I like to play healthy fantasy of doctor-patient. Actually, for a while I was dating a doctor, and I found it to be very healing. I'd be like, let's play doctor-patient. And he's like, okay, like, whatever, I want to please you, you're a goddess. And it took the innocence back. It put the innocence back, and it took the shame out. And yeah, I used to have a definite doctor-patient fantasy, and comes in sometimes. It's fun. Let's play with it. Let's own it. But now in my fantasies, whenever there's the climax, there's always this, he's healing me. He's loving me. He is my twin flame. And I have my partner, I call him my twin flame, my mirror soul. And there is real deep love and intimacy and innocence. And it has been really edgy for me to be like, I have like a doctor-patient thing. He's not into fantasy. My husband is not about the story at all. He's like boobs, naked, energy, like bodies together, soul love, deep energetic. He's the energy archetype and in sexuality. So, and we're like, let's write a story. Let's wear costumes. Let's do this. And he's like, yeah, I'll do that. But, so yeah, love yourself where you're at. Okay, I think we have one more, do we? No, we don't. That was the 5. Okay. So I'd just like to summarize, actually this is not according to Jordan Peterson. So just ignore that. So Jordan Peterson said that, these archetypes are, no, actually, he didn't even say this. I don't know why that got stuck on the slide. So, that was for earlier. Okay. So what is happening? These 5 archetypes, they're playing out. I would guess, my intuition, this is according to Dr. Amanda Noel. I'll switch slides. So it's happening because we as children were watching the fairy tale stories. These fairy tales have been handed down for many generations. The Cinderella, the Beauty and the Beast, Sleeping Beauty. And then they're also attractive to us, like they're popular because there are these patterns in our brain that are already somewhat open, and then we see the story and something resonates. So it resonates and becomes popular. And so our fairy tale stories for children, and then later on it becomes love stories and, teen movies and things like that. These crushes are because we've been fed this BS for so long. We've been fed it through media. Now social media is regurgitating a lot of it. We were mind controlled, so we mind control other people. women getting boob jobs now are having these big social media statuses, but how did they know that they should have boob jobs and that they should promote their boobs to everyone else? Well, it's because somebody back in the 60s, 70s, 80s, these big surgeons started getting paid big money because that is what has been popular in Hollywood. And yes, there are studies that show that, babies like boobs because it's their source of milk, and therefore there's like this gravitation towards the mammary glands. But I would say that no, it's not like an instinctive thing. Like every person wants big boobs. It's been repeated in the culture so much that people are voluntarily doing this to themselves, paying all this money. Even women that can't afford to go to graduate school and they want to go to graduate school, they'll be like, you know what, I'm going to get a boob job instead. They'll set themselves back in their career. They'll say, you know what, instead of doing therapy and working on my body image, self-hatred, I'd rather get a boob job because I want my husband to not check out other women. I want to meet a guy, I want to get married. There's nothing wrong with your boobs except for the fact that someone said that they have to look a certain way, and the fact that we gave our daughters Barbie dolls. I got Barbie dolls. I liked Barbie dolls, but it's so messed up. The proportions of Barbie would make her fall over. She's like 6 foot something. Her waist is so tiny. We've had these exaggerated body types that there are even women that remove their ribs, and they have big social media followings. People just can't wait. Here I live in Bali, and there's this exodus out of Russia that during the war, I guess people are here, and I'm having dreams about how I should get Botox and lip implants. I guess that's what they're called, injectables, because so many of these women look like models, but you could tell they all have these, not they all, but these model looking women that have these faces, they all look like duck lips or something. And there's this expectation in a culture to look a certain way when all the women do this. So we got to protest, ladies. We got to boycott the plastic stuff. We got to boycott putting money into beauty before we put it into our mental health, because I think when we heal our mental health, we heal our body image issues, our dysfunctional relationships, our family wounds, and we invest first in ourselves. And no offense if you've done any operations, I did Botox for many years. I even tried my lips when I was 30, just wanted to see what it would look like. I thought about doing plastic surgery. I still have days where I think about doing it, but I know that I won't be a model to my daughter, and I know how high risk. I just had a family member had to spend weeks in the hospital separating from her child because she had to redo a leaked breast. And having separation from your own child when they're very young, age 0 to 8, it can create a separation trauma that is hard to heal. And so this is not something that women should be doing, should feel pressure to do if we actually want to be amazing moms. It doesn't help nursing. It actually can make it harder. It's harder to diagnose breast cancer. It can be dangerous with leaks. I've met multiple women that have had to take off a year from their life because they were so sick from a breast implant leak. So why is this a symbol of a happy, hot, gorgeous, confident goddess when we're actually harming ourselves? Well, these fantasy archetypes, they are very harmful. Women have been placed on the satanic table, on the sacrificial table, and we're doing this in our own bedrooms to ourselves. We're calling in this dark energy, we're fantasizing about it, and we're not then sending it to the light. So we need to start practicing ceremonially as we connect with our partners, as we're connecting to ourselves, releasing all of the darkness. So if we're bringing in these 5 archetypes, fine. But are we consciously taking charge of our own minds and sending that dark energy back to the light? The dark is the light. The satanic is the Christ. The Luciferian is all one thing. However, if they're disconnected, separation is what brings the domination of the dark over the light. When we unite them, when we own them, when we create the Christ consciousness in ourselves and say, wow, I have wounding, I have abuse trauma, or I have fear, I have shame, or I have this fantasy, and we make it okay. We bring it to the table, we talk about it, and we bring in our band of angels, because all of us have angelic and all of us have demonic. But when we bring them together and we connect in our hearts, and we connect back to our original mother. And if you had a biological mother, remembering her, remembering that is through her sacred sexual organs that she gave you light and life. That why would you want to hurt another woman? Why would you want to hurt yourself as a woman? You carry the womb codes. You are the sacred chalice if you're a woman. And if you're the divine masculine holding space for a woman, you are nourishing that water in her. And even men have this, they don't physically necessarily have the body of a woman. Maybe if they have a body of a woman in front of them, they do. But even in yourself, men, you have this hara, this lower dantian, and it can be receptive. And actually men, by being connected to this womb energy, both in their partners and in themselves, this feminine energy, the watery energy, their vulnerability, their emotions, their fears. When we actually connect to that with the heart frequency, we can heal. So even the darkest energies out there, the darkest vampiric energies, we send you love. We know that it's only the place where you have not yet been met deeply. And we women are waking up and we are sending you love. We are sending you consciousness. We're also setting sacred boundaries, saying we're not playing with this BS fantasy world anymore without being fully aware of it. And we're waking up from the mind control. And we're taking back our power now. And it is done. The reason these fantasies are dangerous is because, ladies, we're handing over our wombs on a platter. And the number of hysterectomies, literally, where women and their wombs are given away to surgery is so high. And I myself am healing from a tiny ovarian cyst. And even as I'm sharing about the dark stuff, my womb like started to hurt. I was like, wow, there's so much fear in me about the dark. But as I bring in the light, I feel better. I feel good. The dark wants us to play small. The dark wants us to submit. It's the shadow in ourself, right? It's the part of us that wants to sabotage, that wants us to say, see, I suck, I can't do it. The light is the true way to win every time, because when you bring together dark and light, then they can both work together in unison. The dark fantasies, the dark energy of the earth, the lower octaves, we can access the full range, right? And we can create heaven on earth. We can go from just 3D to 3, 5, 7, all these dimensions. We can literally bring heaven to earth here. But if we keep living in this split of dark and light, and we're living in this split in our chakras where we got this juicy turn on, this fantasy, and it's just this mental pattern that's come through elites dictating or Google dictating or some old impulse in us that is attracted to these archetypes, these fantasies, based on mammalian or reptilian brain development that we haven't graduated from. Maybe we're still holding the DNA from the reptiles and the mammals. But there's so much more. There's so much energy, and we can step into our angelic frequency. Have you had an angelic orgasm? That's something that I have dabbled with and playing with and experiencing after having an orgasmic breech birth, where my pain body was woo, I was ripping and tearing, and I had an orgasm at the same time. So the power of bringing together the dark and the light, it's not easy, so not easy to be aware of all the darkness that we've been harboring for lifetimes, that we are the devil, we are the beast, we are the vampire, we are all these things, but we're also the goddess of love, the divine, feminine and masculine. So they're harmful because they bleed into our relationships if we don't heal them. If we just fantasize and get off on the dark stuff, we're literally creating orgasmic ritual towards the dark energies to take over the planet. When we claim them, we can heal them. We can create incredible energetics in our relationships, in our lives, in the world. But if we're just unconsciously maneuvering through them, your relationship, I will guarantee, if you're fantasizing about a dark millionaire or a vampire, you will find yourself in bed with one at some point very soon. And it might seem hot and sexy for the first few minutes, months, hours, weeks, years maybe. And then a big, painful blow up. would be what's going to happen for those women that invite Satan into their bed. And where she ends up maybe even having his children. And she has this little hybrid child who is embodying her fantasy for being wanted by the devil. And that's where I think we are at right now, is we are all incarnations of a blend of angelic and Luciferian. And the Divine Mother is weeping and saying, probably shouldn't have let in such dark energy. And he is me, I am her. Dark, light, male, female, we're everything. If you're twin flame, you've been following me for a while, you know that we're made up of everything in the universe. You are created in the mirror of your creator. And you are your creator. Therefore, you're created in his, her image. That's what the Bible says. Elohim is him, her. So you're created in the image of him, her, divine father, mother, God, goddess. And the mirrors just go in a circle, right? We are all little microcosms of the same thing. So you get to create yourself. That's what the elites didn't want us to know. But really, we are the elites. We're connected to them holographically and we can shift. So sending love to them, because they just have imbalanced brain issues that maybe they didn't get the love that they needed. And as you get the love you need in your brain, and as you send love to yourself, and you even heal the parts of yourself that have been abused through the Disney, through the satanic practices, through the mind control, that kind of stuff, that we're all influenced by. Every single person on this planet, we've all been injected with this BS. It's a part of ourself that we're here to own, resurrect, reclaim, heal. And the womb is one of the places to start. The womb, the yoni, the feminine energy, the water. So my story is that I had a very dysfunctional relationship with men. I had a very dysfunctional relationship with myself. And I would go after the bad boy, the hot boy. In college, I tried to slut it out for a little bit, but I actually am very light. I have a soul family energy that I come from, that I could not escape. And my light would always mess things up. I would always end up sabotaging the relationship and therefore receiving a lot of heartbreak. But because I was involved with dark guys, narcissists, and it got better and better as I educated myself over time. And they weren't all bad. They weren't like purely evil. But I would give my light out to men because of my dark fantasies. I fit into the 5 archetypes, not perfectly, not the 5 fantasies exactly, but I definitely had a lot of this, like I get off on being a vampire victim, a victim of a vampire. I manifested broken relationships. It ate away my career. I graduated cum laude from top school and worked my ass off and had so much to share and wanted to share. But because I didn't feel safe because of all the practices that have been done on the planet to disempower the divine feminine and the priestesses here. Every day I woke up with severe PTSD. I manifested getting a very painful, undiagnosable disease of migraine headaches, every day waking up in pain, long days, chronic pain, and went on a whole healing path. And there was light to it as well. There was exploration. I traveled to China and explored Chinese medicine and eventually started healing myself with, not completely, but it went from having pain for a couple of years in a row to like just having it monthly. Recently, finally have healed or almost healed it. I rarely have migraines now, knock on wood. And I'm on a journey. I'm on a journey to uncover why I had so much PTSD around life, around feeling safe in a body. my dream was always to have a healthy relationship, and I would look for that, and I would give everything I had, and I would move. I moved to China, I moved to Italy, I moved to Boston from California to be with different men, and they didn't want me because I was like a little orphan girl that, even though I had loving parents, even though I had 2 therapist parents that were amazing, I had such intense low self-esteem. I did all the analysis I could on it, tried to heal it, but still really struggled with men into my 30s. And my 30s ended with a crescendo of the man that I thought was going to be my husband ended up leaving me on a hospital bed alone with medical fees. We were supposed to move in together, and he was like, you know what, you're too much trouble. I can't handle you. We're gonna, we're done. So I went on this healing journey. I continued on my healing journey and found out that I had a lot of what I would call maybe Magdalene wounds, fear of being a priestess, fear of my shadow, fear of being magical, being mystical, just fear of being hunted down by the dark energy, because I hold light codes like we all do. And I was playing so small. And I ended up doing what any high priestess does. She uses her own orgasmic magic to manifest. And I channeled the ancient wisdom secrets of Isis, Venus, Ashtar, Inanna, Kuan Yin. I remembered who I was. And in this memory, I found myself, my true essence. Still had the shattered pieces of the former self that I once was. The little girl that was scared to speak and be and never felt good enough and had kind of borderline OCD, obsession, perfectionism, went to, great lengths of success and never felt good enough. Had the perfect body, but never felt good enough. All right. So let's just dive back in. Got a little interruption, but honoring everyone's path here. My path has not been easy. Oh my goodness. All right, so still learning how to use this. Let's just wrap up this video because it looks like we've closed out the slides. And I feel like I've gone on. Oh my gosh, this is an hour. I can't believe it. I thought this was going to be a short one. I love you guys. The path is not easy. This has been quite the journey. I honor you for being here. Let me know what you think. Comment below. This was kind of a breakthrough healing video for me. I've been hiding. I've been terrified on some level of talking about these topics. It does feel edgy. I still don't know the legality of all of the things that I need to know to protect myself. So I'm not going to go too much into the heavy things that I want to share about, honestly. There's so many things, the ancient mysteries that I'd like to share and things that I'd like to expose. But, YouTube is a public place. So, yeah, I honor that we dabbled a little bit, that we dove in, that you made it to the end of this video, and my body's kind of shaking. I'm sweating a little bit, but sending a bubble of golden light around all of us for waking up a little bit more, to feel safe in that, to be able to expose the truth to ourselves, in ourselves, and to bring a deep healing for Gaia, because her sexual energy has also been ravished, raped, traumatized, and we can heal her as we heal ourselves, and as we heal our mothers, and as we heal our children, and as we heal our lovers and their mothers and fathers, and it goes everywhere. So, all right, thank you so much for being here. Namaste, namasko. Bye for now.